Well, good morning. Is this on? Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
If I didn't get to meet you, I think I got to meet everybody. But if I didn't, I'm sorry. And I'll meet you personally after we're all done. So we're going to start with some music. There are little sheets on your table that have words if you would like. And we're not starting with like a traditional joy to the world kind of a Christmas song. So I thought I would maybe just explain myself. Because it's a minor song. And it's, people would be like, what are we doing? Is this a dirge? Well, come, Emmanuel. Because I really need Jesus to come. So, and we all do. But that's what Emmanuel means, God with us. And that's what this is about. That's what church is about, not just Christmas time. And it is one of my favorite Christmas songs, just because the words are just, and I'm not going to be able to read them from there. Go that way, sorry. Because I'll mix the verses together, and then you'll be like, what is she singing? But the verses, I mean, the chorus is great too, but the verses are so powerful. Just so powerful. So that's why we're going to do, and I don't know if this is going to be loud.
Okay,
It's not too loud?
no, it's good.
Turn it up, should I keep it there? Feels like it's far, far away, but that's okay. So sing along with me, and we're just going to sing through the verses and a couple of choruses. Oh, come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel, that mourns in lonely exile here, until the Son of God appears. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Oh, come thou Root of Jesse free, thine own from Satan's tyranny. From depths of hell thy people save, and give them victory o'er the rain. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Oh, come thou day spring, come and cheer our spirits by thine advent here, and drive away the shades of night, and pierce the clouds and bring us light. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Oh, come thou King of David, come, and open wide our heavenly home. Make safe the way that leads on high, and close the path to misery. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee. rejoice. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Emmanuel. This is an oldie, so all the old people sing with me. Emmanuel, his name is called Emmanuel, God with us, revealed in us. His name is called Emmanuel. Sing again. Emmanuel. Emmanuel. His name is called Emmanuel, God with us, revealed in us. His name is called Emmanuel. Jesus, 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 there's just something about that name. Master, Savior, Jesus, like the fragrance after the rain. Jesus, 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 let all heaven and earth proclaim. Kings and kingdoms will all pass away, but there's something about that name. Lift it up one more time. Jesus, 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 there's just something about that name. Master, Savior, Jesus, like the fragrance after the rain. Jesus, 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 let all heaven and earth proclaim. Kings and kingdoms will all pass away, but there's something about that name. What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is.
Nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is, the name of Jesus. What a wonderful name it is. What a wonderful name it is, the name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a wonderful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a wonderful name it is, the name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is. Nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is, the name of Jesus.
God, we thank you that you are here in this place. We thank you that you are Emmanuel, that you are God with us, that you are powerful, that you are beautiful, that you are wonderful, that you are full of compassion, that you are full of grace, full of mercy, full of healing, that you are our strength, that you are our joy. And we lift you up in this place today. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Well, I didn't plan to cry through all of that. So, and I decided today was a good day to not wear waterproof mascara. I'm too nervous to cry. So, that was clearly not correct.
There's a Kleenex right behind you.
That's a beautiful thing. I really use the Kleenex behind me. Get all the water off my face. Okay, so the theme was Taste of Christmas. And I was like, what in the world am I going to say about anything like that? Because taste is I started thinking about it once Amber asked me to speak at this. Like, taste is food, obviously. Taste is clothing. Taste is music. Taste is color. It's what you like to read, what you think is funny, how you like to decorate, the things all of that. It's a matter of taste. So that didn't really help me. That's what I decided. So I came up with a nice corny phrase and thought we would have a taste of the Olsons. So for you to get to know us a little bit better. And I will not give you my whole life's history. And I need to have my Bible open, so give me just a second. That is not the first one. Mark and I grew up across the street from each other. It's a different thing. People kind of like to know that because it's unusual, I guess. So, he was the nice boy on the street. I just made my phone do something weird. There we go. He was the nice boy on the street. All the other ones threw rocks and did mean things. So, at the bus stop, he was the nice boy on the street. And then my mom decided to invite them to church on a Sunday night. And then he started coming to my church because he was Lutheran growing up. I was not. And so then we were together more often because he was part of the youth group and I didn't drive and he did, so he lived down the street. So he was my ride everywhere, pretty much. So that's just that. I thought a taste of the Olsons, at least from my perspective, weaving in obedience into my world. So after high school, Mark had gone to North Central University, which was North Central Bible College back then. And that's where everybody around me went, because it's the Bible college that's right there. And Dad said, you're going to go to Bible college, you're going to go to North Central and you're going to marry a pastor. And I said, I'm not going to go to North Central and I'm not going to marry a pastor. But Dad was right, so that's right. So I looked at all kinds of other places, but like in August, I finally gave in and went to North Central. Anyways, so partly because, rewind just a couple of years, they have a thing called, what do they call it? Like at North Central, they invite like the juniors and seniors to come.
College days.
College days. There you go. They have a thing called college days. And I had gone to college days there, not because I intended to go there, but just because it was a fun, you got out of school and, you know, got away from the house, got away from all those things. And it was downtown Minneapolis, so that was a lot of fun. Anyways, but at college days, one time I went to the prayer room because I really kind of did want to know what to do with my life and didn't really know. And Jeremiah chapter 1, God just really, and I'm so not going to cry while I do this. Come on, Teresa. Jeremiah chapter 1, God just really planted it in my heart. I think I was a senior in high school. It says, I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as my prophet. O sovereign Lord, I've said, I can't speak. How many times have I said that? I can't speak. I'm too young, or I'm too whatever. Fill in the blank. I had lots of blanks there, but it spoke to me at that time too, because I was young then. The Lord replied, don't say, I'm too young, for you must go wherever I send you, and say whatever I tell you. And don't be afraid of the people, for I will be with you and will protect you. I, the Lord, have spoken. Then the Lord reached out and touched my mouth and said, look, I have put my words in your mouth. And I'll just stop there. And it was at that point that I really thought, I don't know what it's going to look like, but maybe church life might be not just something I do on a Sunday. Like, I wouldn't have said necessarily called to ministry because I didn't really see myself in that role at all, but I knew God was doing something at least. And then I ended up at North Central. And they had two music majors. One was performance, which is not me, and the other was a music pastor, which is also not me. But I had to do something. I had to pick a major, and none of the other stuff. I couldn't do science, and I couldn't major in something like that. I just couldn't do it. So I thought, well, I could just do that because I know how to do music, not because I will ever do music in church, because that's silly. But I did, because that's what I knew how to do. And then Mark and I started dating in college. We didn't date like growing up. Like, he was like my brother, and he would set me up with people that he approved of that I could actually go out with. And he'd buy flowers for his girlfriend, and he'd buy flowers for me. And it was just, it's just one of those things. So like, to date your best friend was weird, because I was like, because if it goes wrong, then like I don't have him anymore. So we did not date until college. And he was going to be a youth pastor. So I said, well, that's kind of okay, because I could maybe be a real person and be a youth pastor's wife, because my thought processes about ministry were, while I had a really extremely great pastor's wife growing up that She was not like me at all. She was just really great. she was just like always put together, like, and like nothing was ever out of place. Like even after she'd been in the garden, I'd come over for piano lessons. She'd just be like, oh, it's like all good. Like everything is just, she could do everything. She was crafty. She could cook. She could do all the things. She played the organ. She played the piano. She did all kinds of things, and she was just so put together. She was really classy. So ministry was just like not. I don't fit there. I'm kind of like what you see is what you get. If you didn't get that yet, I don't really have another side. This is pretty much it. So if you don't like it, I'm sorry. I can't be something else. So like I said, I couldn't do the music performance thing because I just can't put it on. That's just not me. Anyways, youth pastor. So I got to be okay with the fact that this person that I was now in love with, we were gonna be youth pastors, and I'd be a youth pastor's wife. So fast forward then, we had kids. I have a son and a daughter. Son Karsten is 28. Our daughter Kiara is 25. And I was maybe not going to have kids either. That was one of the things that I told the Lord. It's like, nah, I think maybe I'm not going to do that. That's a long story, which we shouldn't maybe get into. But my sister, her kids, me, being the one that watched them. She's 10 years older than me, so I became an aunt at 10. And yeah. Anyways, so I just was like, I just think that's not for me. And it's like a forever thing. So it was a big deal to me. Like, it's not something you just say, hey, kind of think I don't want to be a mom. Like, it just doesn't happen because you're a mom forever. And so it was a big deal and something that I was really afraid of. But God gave me really fabulous kids because He knew that I needed a lot of help. It's not because I was such a good mom that they turned out fabulous. So anyways, in the midst of all of that, things started changing for us in ministry. And our pastor used to come to Arizona all the time. He would come to Tommy Barnett's School of Ministry. And then he said that he was going to be coming here and he was going to be a pastor. And so God had been speaking to us about ministry still there and that we're not done at Mount Olivet. And we had never in a million years thought about being a senior pastor. So God knew I needed a lot of time to process. Since when He says, you should go, and I say, but Lord, I can't, blah, 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 blah. So it's just kind of how I roll. So God started changing things and really, I don't know, just growing us, I guess, in that way. And we became senior pastors, which meant, so previous to that, my husband was the youth pastor and he was the worship leader. And so he did all the youth and then he did almost all of the worship. We did have a music pastor, but he did 4 out of the 5 services throughout the week that we did. So anyways, so when he became senior pastor, I thought what we had going was a really great thing. Like, you just keep leading worship and preaching. That's what you did on Wednesdays, and that worked really well. And he said no. He's like, I'm not doing that. You are. And that became another journey with me and the Lord. So we got okay with, he brought us into being a senior pastor. I don't know what that looks like, and just being obedient. Sorry, my Bible just went away. There it is. And in the midst of that, my kids are growing up. They're now 6, 4, and 5 and 2. So that was our our transition that year from youth pastoring to senior pastoring, and then I was transitioning from just being someone that just got to play the piano and sing. It was a beautiful 8 years. I can follow so good. Leading is a whole nother thing. And our son went into kindergarten that year. That was a big deal. And about October of that year, he started saying, "Mom, I really think you should homeschool me." And I said, "That's so funny." I don't think that's, no, I don't. I am not a homeschool mom. The qualities that homeschool moms have, I don't really possess those. So I don't think that's a good idea. And that continued, like from October until the end of, and he was fine in kindergarten. He was doing fine. Everything was good. Like, he wasn't doing bad. He wasn't getting like picked on. He was confused during the month of October because they read books about witches and all of that, and there were lots of conversations about, but anyways, it was all good. Like, we didn't really need to change anything else because we've had a lot of change. But in August, we started looking at, like, what would that mean? Because sports are a big deal to my husband. So that's all the rest of it. I'm like, sports is like this much of it. Like, all the rest of it's like, takes up the whole room. Sports is like, we can find the sports thing, can't we? We can find, anyways, we found community outlets for sports things. And so began the journey that I never, ever, ever thought I would do. See, Miranda is probably, I don't know if you homeschool
Yes.
Miranda, but Miranda is my picture of like what a homeschool mom is. She can,
I just said that.
she can do all kinds of things that,
She's done it.
see? All the home, and we did know a fair amount of homeschool people, just to give my son that. But they're all like, they do everything, and you know, they grow their own food, they have their own animals, they do all the things I don't know anything about, and then everybody just works and does good and learns, and it's just like this magical world where things just happen. And I don't really not like that. It's magical, right, Miranda? It's a lot of work, see? So we began the journey of being a homeschool mom, and I didn't die, and my son didn't die the first year. So, and he really had, you know, out of kindergarten, he could read a little bit, but like not super great. So we had a really successful school year, which I was like, look, he learned something. It's good. And then they have to take those tests every year. And I was like, oh, dude, Jesus. I was more nervous than he was because I was like, well, what if I did it all wrong? Anyways, another step of obedience is really the theme that is in the midst of all the chaos. So every year, so then Karsten is 6, so then Karsten is 7, and Kara's 4. So we started like a pre-kindergarten kind of a thing so that she'd have something to do while we did school. So now I have 2 kids, homeschool mom, I'm a pastor's wife. Like, this is just a very laughable situation. And I'm the worship leader at our church. And God says, what about choir? And I said, see, I'm already doing music that I don't think I should be doing. I don't think that's a good idea. So of course, you know, what actually does happen is that we end up, you know, doing choir and all of that stuff that I just thought would never be a part of my world. It's like I could stand up and look at my life and be like, this is so weird. Like, it just would never in a million years have thought this to be the journey. But it was a really good journey. Like, I ended up loving having choir, and we did, like, you know, crazy productions, and silly things and bringing horses into the
Oh.
church and crazy stuff. And it's just, anyways, all in the midst of, my initial response being like, but God, I can't, and all of that. I'm looking at my notes so that we don't go on because my kids are still in school at that point. Got a long ways to go. So being in ministry, having kids, being in ministry, a super important thing for us was that our kids loved church. Like, they loved being a part of church. We took them everywhere. They, when we were youth pastors, they went to all the stuff that we did. And it's just, they were just a part of who we were. And their lives were important. Mark never missed any of Carson's games. Just working schedules out so that we didn't do stuff when we had church. And we did sports that we could do and still have church. But really important to us that they knew that who we were as mom and dad wasn't because we were Pastor Mark and Teresa. That it was because we were mom and dad. And the rules that we had in place for them were not because they were pastors' kids. It's because your mom and dad have a relationship with Jesus, and these are the things, like, whether we ever pastor, like, for the rest of your life, these things are things that we think are important. This is how you should live before God. These are things you should do. These are things that it's not really good for you to do. And that was super, super important, that they understood that the rules, because our rules were different than some of their friends. And so, Mom, so-and-so can watch that movie. Well, that's great. Even if we weren't pastors, it's just not something we do. And then we found a tool called ClearPlay that we could take a movie and we could cut out all the stupid stuff and still have, the gist of the movie line. And so then when my kids got older, they would be like, Mom, they had this movie thing in the park and I went to go see it and that's a horrible movie. And I'm like, you should have asked me first. I would have told you don't go see it like that, because we took out all the bad stuff. And it was a good movie when you saw it. But those types of things were just really important to us, that we instilled in our kids that who we are is just who we are. It's not because you're a pastor's kid that we have these rules. It's not because we're afraid of what somebody in church is going to say or anything like that. It's about relationship, and it's about doing what you're supposed to do. So then kids grow up and things change. They go off to college. More change happens. I think part of the reason, no, we're just not even going to go there. I'm just going to cry too much. Anyways, lots of stuff, lots of changes. My mom passed away 2013. My dad passed away 2014. Mark's mom passed away 2015. Ha! Then my brother passed away 2016. My daughter moved out of state 2017. My son and daughter, and my granddaughter. Okay, that's another thing. I had a granddaughter in that space of time. Erin was born 2017. That was a beautiful, beautiful thing. Best thing ever. They always, you hear people tell you that, like, grandkids are the best thing in the world.
They sure are.
And they really are. Like, you can't understand it till you have them, and it's like, it's a whole nother world. But then 2018, our son and daughter-in-law and Erin took a position, not at our church, because he had been our kids' pastor since 2010. So he'd been there with us for like 8 years. So lots of change, lots of things happening that way for us. I ended up in other roles at church, executive things, administrative things, and then finance things. That was very, very, it was awful. I don't know how to say it. I was trying to think of a nice word, but I couldn't think of one. So, like I said, what you see is what you get. So, I was trying to think of something nice, but it was just awful. It was like a big, dark black hole that I thought I would never, ever climb out of. I don't know how to describe it. So, all of those things, difficult things, walking through them and being obedient in the midst of it all. I think all of those things God uses to allow you to hear things differently. Because I probably would not have, when God spoke and said, maybe ministry and all the other things, what about music and me saying no to all of those things. Those are all steps of obedience, but this last step of obedience, this is not my last step of obedience, but my most current step of obedience is today, actually. I don't know that it would have been able to hear had mom and dad and Inga still been there, my daughter's still there, our son's still in ministry with us. Like, we all grew up together. My mom and Mark's mom were friends. Like, all of our holidays were all the family all together. Like, we didn't do separate holidays for different families. They all went to our church. My mom and dad went to our church. Mark's mom went to our church. She came a few years after, because she had lived in North Dakota after his dad had passed away. Anyways, just that kind of setting. Like, God would have had to send lightning bolts and write things on the wall, and it would have had to have been very different. And I probably just would have went la 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 la. I can't hear you. So all of that to a place where God said, "Lift up your eyes and see." And we said, "What does that mean?" Lift up your eyes and see. See what? What am I supposed to see? What am I supposed to get out of this? And, we walked through different things, different people saying, come and speak and do this, and that was fine. Opening our hearts to the possibility that, so does that mean that we're not supposed to stay in Minnesota? It's not supposed to stay at Mount Olivet? That would have been the first thing, because not being in Minnesota was really not part of the thought process. And God just started challenging us. And then Mark broke his back. January 10th. Of last year. He broke his back, and we had been in process of looking at different things, and different people had said, you should send your resume here, you should do this and do that, and we did things like that just to see, God, what do you want us to do, and never really felt like it was something we should continue with, go forward in. And after Mark broke his back, he was studying at home in a zero gravity chair, because it was the only thing he could actually sit in. He could stand, and he could sit in the zero gravity chair. That was pretty much it. Car rides were awful, to get to the church, and then once he got to the church, he was well, I need to stay standing now for the rest of the time. Sitting, he couldn't sit in this kind of a chair until, I don't remember. Long time. It was it was weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks before he could actually sit in a chair. In that process is when he felt prompted that we should look at the Assemblies of God has districts in each state, and every state functions differently, so not every state will post if they have like an open church or anything like that. And he felt like he should go to the Arizona AG website, which we had looked at before because we had been asked to submit a resume to other places, and I had actually looked at it in November when they first posted the opening for this church. And I really felt like I wasn't supposed to say anything to my husband at that point, which is weird because pretty much I do. Like, if I find something, I say it unless I have very clear, don't do this. So I felt like I wasn't supposed to. So he found Fountain of Life on the AG website that you needed a pastor. And he said, hey, did you see this? And I'm like, actually, I have. Like in November, it was before Thanksgiving. So they've been in process for like 3 months. So jumping in at that point is, they're already way into process. So, which they have been in process for a while, but so he, I think Don was the contact, so he sent Don an email saying, hey, just saw this, if you guys are 3 months in, should we send, are you still accepting resumes? Because a lot of times they get to a place where they're not accepting any more resumes, they're just going to weed through what they have. And Don responded, it was right away, like within an hour or something. He said, yeah, send it on over. And thus began our journey from January to June. And every time we did something, we really felt like we were just supposed to keep walking through an open door. We're just supposed to be obedient and walk through. I don't know what it looks like. Don't know what it means. I don't know what the purpose is. But just being obedient in that process. And that has led us to here. So it has been a long journey of obedience, I think, for both of us in ministry, and then responding to God. And I think the reason that I wanted to do the songs about Emmanuel and Jesus and his presence is because in every single situation, I know that I would not have made it through that step of obedience without his presence being there. Regardless of my attitude, which most of the time initially really stunk. Like, God let me live, and maybe shouldn't have, like the amount of whining and complaining and if I would have been like done, okay, phew, now I don't have to listen to that anymore. It's just no matter what the situation and how greatly I responded or not greatly I responded. Bringing God's grace to bring me around through that obedience, his grace to help me when I couldn't get there, particularly when we went from youth pastoring to senior pastoring. That was probably one of the hardest things for me, and doing music. Even though music is what I do, I'm really happy to just sit like right there instead of right here. So I had 1,000 reasons for God why me being a music pastor was a bad idea. Oh, and I skipped that. So I wasn't actually a music pastor. I was just a music person. And then in 2004, God really challenged me that I should get licensed. And that's just really funny to me, because I was like, that's the stupidest thing that I could ever think of. Not that you're stupid and think of that, but if I were to think that thought, I think that's a really stupid thought. Because, you probably shouldn't call God stupid, so that's a really stupid idea. I probably did, though. Because I said, I don't speak in front of people. I don't preach. in front of people. I am not that person. I'm not that worship leader. I have no desire to speak in front of people. I can sing all day long, but speaking is a whole other thing. So that step of obedience, all of those things, just, God's grace in the midst of that. I just, looking backwards, I just think, I can't. Like, it sounds funny. I can't believe that you let me live. Like, sometimes I just think, and not that you just let me live, but that he was so gracious to, like, allow me to keep doing what I was doing, even though I had a horrible attitude. Like, I should not be leading worship. Do you know I just yelled at God for like an hour before we got to church because I'm seriously still doing this thing and I don't know why I'm still doing this thing. I'm not good at it. Don't you know everybody else plays the piano better than me? Everybody else sings better than me? Like it was just not pretty sight. And God still loved me in the midst of all of that. In the midst of my disobedient attitude, trying to have an obedient outcome, trying to do the right thing, and yet feeling my insides just churning all the time. God's grace in the midst of that was huge, and then again for this journey, I just was like, here we go again. What does that look like, Lord? Like, lift up your eyes and see. What does that look like? And what does that mean? And why? Why is this a good thing for me to leave my grandbabies? And yet it was the right thing. It was good. And I definitely wasn't kicking and screaming. I was just more crying. I was not kicking and screaming because I knew so clearly, like, God, in certain seasons, God had just spoken so clearly, like, you just know that it's, like when we moved from youth pastoring to senior pastoring, that particular, I knew it was the right thing. I thought it was ridiculous, but I knew it was the right thing. So I knew that this was the right thing, but, how much did I cry? It just was ridiculous. And clearly I'm still crying. So, no, I don't really cry as much anymore, really. I don't. Some days I thought, okay, is there ever going to be a day when I don't cry? That'd be really great. I'd love one of those days. But God's faithfulness in the midst of that, in bringing us here and all of you, and the welcome and the love and just the sense of God's pleasure, I guess, is the best way to put it. Just, I know that this is where we're supposed to be, and this is what we're supposed to do, and what it looks like and what he wants to do, I have no idea. But I know that he is good, and I know that he helps me in all the midst of the things that I feel like I can't do, and things that I don't have. We made it through decorating day, and that was good. I am not the decorateur. It's just, this role is just always so funny. It's like, okay, we'll see. Cooking, that's not my thing. Sewing, that's not my thing. Crafting, it's not my thing. Let's decorate the whole entire church for Christmas. Oh. And not that I didn't do that in Minnesota. I did, but, I eventually knew how to do it. Like, you come here and I was like, I don't know this building. I don't know what you have. Just silly things like that. Like, you're just like, look, we made it through. It looks Christmassy. Okay, good. And then Ashley made everything pretty. So thank you, Lord, for Ashley, who can't be here today. But she's been praying for me, so that's good. I'm standing because of things like that. So I want to read 2 more things of Scripture after I get my phone to open again. I think it was in the Passion Translation. Ephesians chapter 3. Starting at verse 16. I might read it in both versions because I couldn't decide which one to read. Now I've been crying. So, and I pray that He, meaning God, Jesus, would unveil within you the unlimited riches of His glory and favor until supernatural strength floods your innermost being with His divine might and explosive power. Then by constantly using your faith, the life of Christ will release deep inside of you, and the resting place of His love will become the very source and root of your life. Then you will be empowered to discover what every holy one experiences, the great magnitude of the astonishing love of Christ in all of its dimensions. How deeply intimate and far-reaching is His love. How enduring and inclusive it is. Endless love beyond measurement that transcends our understanding. Absolutely. This extravagant love pours into you until you are filled to overflowing with the fullness of God. Never doubt God's mighty power to work in you and accomplish all of this. He will achieve infinitely more than your greatest request, your most unbelievable dream, and exceed your wildest imagination. He will outdo them all, for His miraculous power constantly energizes you. And the New Living Translation says it this way. I pray that from His glorious, unlimited resources, He will empower you with inner strength through His Spirit. Then Christ will make His home in your hearts as you trust in Him. Your roots will go down into God's love and keep you strong. And may you have the power to understand, as all God's people should, how wide, how long, how high, and how deep His love is. May you experience the love of Christ, though it's too great to understand fully. Then you will be made complete with all the fullness of life and power that comes from God. Now all glory to God, who is able, through His mighty power at work within us, to accomplish infinitely more than we might ask or think. And I'm not sure how that really sums up obedience and walking in, other than the fact that it talks about a constant and a continual and it's like a everyday thing that God does. And then your roots go deep. And because of that, I can be more obedient today than I could have been when God just said, maybe you're going to marry a pastor. You know, at that place, my ability to be obedient was much smaller. Could never have done this at that stage of my life. And I just see how that constant and that continual and that abiding grace to help me to see what I can't see, to help me to be what I don't think I can be, to help me to do what I don't think I can do. That amount of love, like I said, not that He didn't just say, okay, you're done. Not that He didn't do that, but that He did so much more. Like He loved me in the midst of all of it, no matter where you're at. And maybe you say, I don't think I can be obedient at all right now. I totally understand. I really do. And maybe, some of you have lived a lot longer than I have, and you've been obedient a lot longer. And what your obedience looks like for you now is different than it was when you were 50 or when you were 30 or when you were 20. But that continuation of that is my prayer for you guys. This is Paul's prayer for the Ephesians, and it's my prayer for you, that God would allow that to happen in your lives, that you would see the seasons, that you would see the circumstances that challenge you, the circumstances that frustrate you, the things that are great, that all of those steps of obedience that you take, that what you are building is so big and so much greater and so much stronger than what you can see that it is. All of the challenges, the difficulties, the things, those are what they have built in you. That strength, not because of you, but because of God's grace in the midst of those situations, it's beyond what you can even imagine. And it's more beautiful to Him than you can imagine. His word tells us that He desires obedience more than sacrifice. So, and they sacrificed a lot, like in the Old Testament, like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Dead things were just, they did that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So obedience is better than sacrifice. So that's my challenge for us, that we just, every day, there's things every day that I need to be hearing. God, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? Who am I supposed to talk to? What coworker maybe I need to say something when I don't usually say something. Maybe I notice something that I don't usually notice. I'm kind of a focused person, so I don't notice things that are here, so when God has me notice them, I should be obedient to that and do something. So I just wanted us to end with the time. I want to pray, but I want to give you time. I don't know if you know people around your table well enough to where you'd want to pray, but I think that's important that if there's been a super challenging time, maybe something's happened, maybe there's loss, maybe there's change, maybe there's whatever. I don't even know. I don't want to put a label on it. But if you want to just take, it doesn't have to be long, just a few minutes at your table and say, does anybody have anything that we should pray for? Anything that we can lift before Jesus? Because we're stronger when we do this together like this and we lift each other up. I certainly couldn't have walked this road with just my husband and I and God. I mean, I could have, but it would have been way worse. Without people loving me and praying for me, and there are ladies back in Minnesota that have been praying for me today. Little things like that you just whoo. Sorry. The switch needs to stop flipping. It needs to do. But we need each other. That's the point of what I was trying to say there. We need each other, and you might not think you do, but it is a good thing to do. So I'm just going to close in prayer, and then if you want to take a few minutes, if you don't, that's fine too. I'm not saying you all have to at all. So God, thank you for this fabulous group of ladies. Thank you for bringing us here. Thank you for their love. Thank you for their grace in my life. And thank you for their lives and the people that they touch and the people that they affect. And the things that you do in the kingdom of God because of them is amazing. And I'm just so thankful, Lord, to be a part of this journey. And I just pray that you would bless them, that you would keep them, that you would continue to open their hearts and their ears to hear your voice speaking to them in the things that you want to do, the things that you want to say, the ways that you want to challenge them, the ways that you want them to grow. And Lord, give all of us the strength to respond in obedience to your voice, to do what you've asked us to do, to be and to go and to say and smile or whatever it is, Lord, that you want us to do, to go across the street, to meet our neighbors, to meet our coworkers, to extend a hand to a family member, people in the grocery store, people on the street. God, that we would see beyond ourselves. So often we're consumed with ourselves, but Lord, to see beyond ourselves and to walk in obedience because of your great love, because you were obedient. That's what this whole Christmas season is about, is you being obedient, Mary being obedient, Joseph being obedient, and doing this crazy, unthinkable thing of coming to earth because you loved us so much. God, thank you for that. Thank you for your immeasurable love. And help us. Amen.
Amen.